So, as I mentioned before, my name is Chris Davis. My official job title is a social media account manager for AimClear. We're a digital marketing company based here in Duluth. We deal a lot with the Fortune 500. We're actually a 5-time Inc. 5000 company ourselves. We run social campaigns either through social media, we do PR work, we do Google, as well as content development and website development. We work with companies I mentioned before, eBay, Dell, Firestone, and now one of the things that I'm heading is more of a local, smaller business type of offering that's focusing on more ways to use kind of the expertise that we've gained through working with some of these larger enterprise companies, but apply them to more of a localized and kind of more of a bootstrapped mentality. And I am here today to talk about Facebook. One of the greatest things about using social media is the ability to target the right person. Facebook has even more of those opportunities. Facebook's full of possibilities. The great thing about this is there's 1.7 billion people that are actively use Facebook on a monthly basis, and they use it for usually over 40 minutes a day. There's also over 100 million minutes of video viewed in Facebook every day. So there's a lot of people, A, that are not only engaged in Facebook, but B, that they're right there waiting for you to get in front of them. Facebook offers you all the tools to get in front of the right people at the right time. It's kind of like when we first started marketing a long time ago, it was get a radio campaign, get a billboard, get something in the magazine. That's great, that's getting in front of the right people. The difference is with Facebook, we can track it from beginning to end. I can track every single person that A, saw my ad, and then I can track where they went after that. Did they go and become a customer? Did they go to my website? Did they view my video? What did they do? When did they do it? And who they are. With all of the different stuff, when you're doing billboard advertising or you're doing print, you're shooting it kind of out to a lot of people. Even TV ads, you know somewhat who you're going to because based on the programming, you get an idea of the demographics. With this, we can go down and I'm going to show you going forward all the different targeting methods that you can use to really make sure that you're getting in front of the right person. With all the people out there that really are engaged in social media, sometimes it can be hard to get in front of the right person. So here's the different options.
And then I had a question. Do you
Sure.
want us to hold off on questions until
Feel free to ask a question at any time.
This is so like for you guys, like if you have anything, like we can keep this a little bit more informal because it is a very small group. So like go ahead if you guys have working on something on projects right now that maybe you want him to maybe touch more base on, that would be more applicable.
Yeah,
go ahead
absolutely
and
would.
reach out, pick his brain. This is what it's for. So
I feel more comfortable when it's a dialogue too. So any questions, feel free just to let me know.
Great.
So getting into some of the different targeting options, one of the biggest things that we can target people by are what they call life events, demographics. So we can target people that just got married. We can target someone that just bought a house or that's thinking about a house. When I moved to Duluth, they could have targeted me based on somebody who recently moved. So if you sell a service, cable service, you can telecom, those types of things, you can find them. We know that they just recently moved, so they're probably in the market for those types of things. So here's a couple of the different demographics that we can target by. We can target by education, financial as far as what their net worth is, what they make a year, what kind of investments that they make. We can target people by, if they're parents, we have campaigns going right now for parents of ages 3 to 6 or 9 to 12. We can target you if you're a soccer mom. We can target you if you're a grandparent. All of those different things, family makeups. We can target people that are roommates that have multiple different roommates, but they're not family members. They can tell those different things. We can target you by your job title. So if you're a CEO or higher, we can target by that. We can target by seniority. Are you a mid-level employee or are you a senior-level employee? Are you an entry-level employee? We can target you based upon, and I'll show this as well here, if you're retired. Where did you retire from? We can target by not only job title, but industry as well. Maybe you just work in a certain industry, or you work for a specific company. We have a list right now that we target for one of our clients of the top 500 people that spend money in their industry. A trade publication came up with the information. We got it. We know all the all the company names. So now we only target people that work at those companies. Does it make any sense for my client to go out and spend money to get in front of people that are not in the same industry or not a relevant type of customer? So we can know that through here. Another thing is behavioral targeting. So what are your digital activities? What type of phone do you have? If you have let's say you have an app that you're putting out for people, it doesn't make any sense for you to target someone who has a phone model that does not support your app. So we can exclude any kind of phone. We can exclude operating systems. One of my clients right now, they have a software program that doesn't work on Mac computers. So we just exclude anybody with an OS X operating system. That way we know we're not showing ads to people that shouldn't see it. We can target you by financial stuff. What do you invest in? What is your house worth? What size is your house? Those types of things. We can target by, one great one that we are going to touch here too is travel. Are you a seasonal travel? Do you travel for business? Do you travel in the USA or do you travel internationally? That can be great when you have a business that serves the needs of tourists. Here in Duluth, we have a lot of companies that are seasonal because they have people coming in. So we're going to I also show how to target those people that might not live in Duluth but are interested in traveling here. And we know that by some of their interests, and then we know it by stuff like this. We know that they're personalized travelers. Other things, seasonal and events. So when we're targeting people based on the holidays, not everybody celebrates every holiday, so let's target the people that do. As well as just different kind of, do they spend money on video games? Do they spend money on sporting events? Do they spend money on, one of the key things when targeting social users is find out what they spend money on and target them by that, because if a customer is willing to spend money on something, it shows that they care about it. If they care about it, they're more willing to look at your content that reflects around that. So it's just really identifying those people. We capitalize on interest targeting too. Interest targeting is a little bit different. All this other stuff is based on data that they get from loyalty cards, the US Census, all of those types of, I think Facebook gets 70% of its data from loyalty and member cards. So if you have a loyalty card to Expedia per se, they're going to know your traveling interests. They send that information over to Facebook. Now Facebook knows that they can target you. One important thing to understand about data that's coming in Facebook, it's not personally identifiable. There's laws that are around privacy and those types of things. So I don't know it's you by name. I don't know what your home address is. I don't know what your phone number is. I know that you fit a bucket and you fit a persona of the type of person that I want to show an ad to, so that's why you see an ad. Interest targeting can be really great when you're thinking about how to qualify people. So, just because someone makes a certain amount of money isn't going to necessarily tell us everything we need to know about them. If I know they're making a certain amount of money and I know that they are really interested in oceanic, giving money to charities, per se, that have to do with the ocean. I know that's their interest, I know that they make enough money, and I know that they're into charity. That makes my bucket. That makes me a persona of the type of person that I want to get in front of. So now I can know to show them that type of content. Here's all the information that you give away on Facebook every day that you just give away for free. This is what they get. They know what language you speak. They know what your relationship is. They know what sports you like to watch on TV or what you like to play. They know what your favorite books are, your favorite music. They know who you interact with, what political organizations that you follow. They know what type of news that you're interested in. And they know this by how you're interacting with people on Facebook. Every time you go to a brand page and you like a post, that sends a signal to Facebook's algorithm that you care about that. You get put into that bucket. If you're constantly writing posts about the Vikings, they're going to know that you like the Vikings, and so you get put into that bucket. So they take all the signals of who you interact with, what you post about, and the things that you click on. That's how they know kind of this information. So all of this information, they basically just give away to you, or you give away to them, which is great for me because it gives me another layer that I can use to target on. Looks like it was in there twice. Facebook targeting in action. So here's where the real big meat to this is. So let's say you're a business. So I created a business. It's Chris's Super Freaking Awesome Wine Shack. And I'm a business here in Duluth, and I serve food and wine, and I'm really just targeting people that want to come into my business and have something to eat, maybe drink a glass of wine. In my business, I have 4 primary customer types that I know. I know that I love people that love wine, and they live here. I love people that are going to travel into my area that might have given stuff that. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I want to find people that want to travel into here. I want to find those who like the finer things in life. I know that they have already expressed that they want to go to a fine dining establishment and that they like wine. And then I want to find people that are retired, that have a little bit of disposable income, and that I would consider a foodie, or somebody who would want to go try something new that they haven't been to before. So the number one customer, my wine lover who's local. So I'm going to be able to use interest targeting plus locational targeting. Another targeting method that is really interesting about Facebook is I can target people that either live in a region, a city, or a radius around a street. So I can say I want somebody who lives, or I'm going to target only people that live within 10 miles of my location. That means that anybody outside that's not going to see the ad. Or I can just target people that have a Duluth address, or I can target people that are within 25 miles of Duluth itself. Either way, I can get in front of them.
Do you find that people actually put their address in Facebook?
Some do, but they also get it from IP addresses. Wherever you come in at. I mean,
that's kind of...
With the mobile, you're going to get around a lot,
Yeah.
but they also will take like where you work and those types of things. They use different types of things to kind of triangulate that. Like I don't have my address in Facebook, but they have a general idea of where I at least live by.
And then to interrupt, you just walked in. We're gonna be very informal because it's a much smaller group and whatnot. So if you have anything applicable to your doing in your business or you have questions, we're gonna just raise our hand or go ahead and just anything what we
Sounds
want.
good.
Yell or throw something, it doesn't matter. So here's how we go about this. So I'm going to target people that live in Cloquet, Duluth, Superior, and Two Harbors because they're close enough that people will travel. I'm going to target a 25-mile radius around that. Then on top of that, I'm going to add in things that they have said that they like. So I know that they have interest in wine bars. I know that they have an interest in wine tasting. Wineries, Zinfandels, I'll put different wine types in there. I'll put hors d'oeuvres, different wine clubs. If somebody likes a wine magazine, there's not enough room to show all of them, but if you go in there and add all these interests in that could apply to them, and I know they live in my area, so why wouldn't they want to come down when I put out a post for visit us on Tuesday night for a half-price appetizer, and we're debuting a brand new wine? That they've showed that they're interested in that. The next customer that we talk about, travel and interest. So I'm going to find the people that like to travel and they have interests that are around what we're serving. So they love Duluth, and we know they love Duluth because they've already said that they are interested in stuff like Lake Superior, Superior Hiking Trail, University of Minnesota Duluth. We find the people that might have kids in the college and they travel up here. The other thing we do is all frequent travelers. This is what I spoke about earlier. We're targeting all frequent travelers and personal travelers. So we don't necessarily want to target the people that are traveling for work because they're not necessarily always going to be able to go out and spend money or be able to go out to dinner. But I do want to find people that travel for fun. And then I'm going to target some major cities around Chicago, Fargo, Green Bay, Milwaukee, Minneapolis. Stuff that's close enough that someone could get in the car and travel within a day and be here. So they're the type that are most likely to take a weekend trip, let's say. Come up on a Friday. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Hi. So this is what I mentioned before too. You see how it says here, detailed targeting on this side? And if I were to put the behaviors and personal travelers into the same bucket, that's what they would call an and. Or an or. So that would just include all of these users with all these users, but that's not what I want. I want to find ands. I want to find people that like stuff in Duluth and they also travel. So that makes my bucket a little bit smaller because I'm adding different layers of targeting options. Next, customer 3, we're going to use Incumbent Location. So these are the customers that like the finer things in life, the way I would say. So I know their financial income. I know what they make per year. So basically I'm targeting anybody who makes over $100,000 a year. I'm targeting people that live within 25 miles of these major cities that we talked about before, or towns. And I'm also targeting people who have said that they like wine, or they like fine dining. I also target people that, subscribe to cigar magazines or wine club magazines or those types of things. What I mentioned, the finer things. So they're the most likely to want to travel in, have the disposable income, to then be able to go ahead and purchase stuff in my store.
So Chris,
Yeah.
I work with economists a fair bit, and one of the main things they always tell me is people lie.
Right.
And with respect to income level, I would guess people lie a lot.
Sure.
Do they have any way of ground truthing these things?
Well,
to
a
figure
lot
out
of this will
whether
come from credit card companies.
Okay.
your loyalty cards, like I said, Expedia, Costco,
Okay.
those. So they know what your income is because you have to report it
Okay.
when you come into it. So there is ways to double check. You're always gonna have some people that are gonna lie and say that they do, especially in job titles and that kind of stuff. Income's one of those that I feel pretty confident in, that if they say it's that income, it should be.
Well, they
This
must
is-
have multiple measures of it that they can figure
Yeah.
out. right?
They're cross-referencing. Like I said, 70% of it comes from loyalty cards and credit card type of stuff. The rest of it comes from the U.S. Census. It comes from even like different other federal organizations that give this data in.
How are they connected? Do you have to stay logged into Facebook in order for that to pick up on the loyalty cards and things like that?
As far as stay logged in,
Yeah, I guess where's the connection to
In your profile. Once you create a profile on Facebook and they know who you are, that's when they make that connection. You don't necessarily have to stay logged in.
Oh.
It helps me when you stay logged in because you're going to see my ad more often. But once you create the profile, that's where the connecting goes to.
But how do they know that, like, Chris Davis, as an example, is you and not the other 500 Chris Davises in the country?
They assign everybody a unique kind of an ID number that's not. It's kind of a tricky thing because it's not personally identifiable to me.
Sure.
But to the back end, the data tables that are talking back and forth, they know who you are.
Huh. Okay.
It's kind of like what we do. I don't know if anyone's familiar with programmatic advertising, but it's kind of the same thing. You get this data table identifies you as this number, this data table identifies you as this number, and then they talk together and cross-reference it, and that's how they come with the profile. So lastly, we talk about what I would like to call a retired foodie. So these are people, what I talked about, demographic, work employers. They're happily retired elementary teacher. And you go through, and the nice thing is, so I have these ones already figured out. If I was just to click into this box here, Facebook would give me a bunch of suggested ones that I haven't used yet. So what we'll do is we'll maybe start with like 3 or 4 that we know for sure we want to get. We put those in. Then it's going to drop down with some more suggestions. And then I'm going to go in there and continue to add stuff in. And so we grow these big lists. You don't want to leave people out. Also, we're going to go people that are established that they are foodie, that they love wine and spirits. They watch Food Network. There's other ones in here too, like maybe they subscribe to a cooking magazine or Emerald or those types of things. I know that they're into food. I know also that they're in an area where they can travel close. So they're retired, so they don't have to go to work. They love food, and they're within a day's travel. So I can show them ads like, "Have you visited Duluth and satisfy your inner foodie? Get some wine to go with this." We would put out ads like this that would identify with them because of their interests. So each one of these different demographics that I mentioned, we're creating different ads for each one because they each have different needs, each have different wants, and they each have something different that's going to interest them.
Yeah, you can.
So the next step with this, and kind of what we do at AimClear, it's becoming more and more a standard practice, but it's even when we first started doing it, it was a little bit on the outside. As we take what we learn in social and we apply it to other marketing efforts. So Google AdWords, you're always going to have, when you're using Google search, Google AdWords, Google display, those types of things, you're always going to have what we really focus on is a higher intent. If you go into Google, if you left right now and you went into Google and you typed in best place in Duluth to get a glass of wine, that's usually because you want a glass of wine. You're not just looking at it necessarily to find information, right? So your intent within Google is much, much higher than it is through if you're on Facebook and you're just scrolling through and you see my really cool looking ad with a beautiful glass of wine and you click on it because you're interested in it, but you're not necessarily thinking right now I want to go have a glass of wine. What we're able to do is, but when you're doing that, let me just take a step back. When you're doing that within Google, you don't know who the person is. It's all based upon keywords. So it's based upon me choosing to go in there and type in, where can I find a glass of wine? It's not based upon my profile as me as a person. What we're able to do is go into use social channels like Facebook, pre-qualify somebody, know a little bit more about them, and then I'm able to import that list of people into Google and say, Google, still same thing. If somebody searches for these keywords, I want to make sure that you show my ad, but I only want you to show it to these people when they search for something. Because I've already pre-qualified them. I already know that they live in the area. I already know that they have a certain amount of income. I already know these different things. So I'm willing to tell Google I'll pay a premium for that customer because I've already pre-qualified them. and they've already been to my website. They're already familiar with me. I know who they are and what they're qualified as, and I'm willing to give them more money. Say, hey, they're more likely to convert and become a customer because they've already shown interest in who we are. So how we do this, we retarget social users through search. We're going to create lists of users who've already been qualified in social. We're going to market to these users through RLSA, which is a remarketing list for search ads, or through the Google Display Network. How many times have you gone to like Expedia or to another website, or you go and look at a shirt, and then the next 6 websites that you go to, you see the same shirt because they're following you around?
I had a question. When you're buying ads, like when I was looking at this about a year ago, when you're buying a large volume of ad dollars, you can go to a broker, can't you, and get the units for a lot cheaper than you normally would when you're spending like $25,000.
It depends on the type of ad. You could buy banner ads on a website through a broker for that. It's very hard, and I don't know of any way that you can go in and buy Google traffic for that.
Okay. No, I was thinking Facebook.
Oh, Facebook ads?
Yeah.
I don't know of any brokers that,
I'll just send you an email with
Yeah.
what I was thinking of then, because there was some sort of, it was like, if you bought, X amount of dollars worth, you're not paying it like the same unit cost would be for, and it still would be.
Possibly, I think that you're better off by using some of these targeting methods, and you'll probably still get it cheaper than what you're going to get it through a broker, and you're not paying the broker fee.
Yeah.
What would be my philosophy? A lot of times, the stuff that we're doing, to be completely honest, is not something that you couldn't do. It's just that we know the different ways to put the targeting together, and we have the time to come up with the creative and to manage the campaigns, is where we kind of come along.
And for a couple of the new guys that popped in, we're going to keep this like really informal. We got a really small group today, so like basically, Chris, you want to give at least the last 3 a quick little spiel? We can calm down.
So, just to kind of recap, I'm Chris Davis. I'm a social media account manager at AimClear, which is a digital marketing firm downtown. My main function is I run digital marketing campaigns, primarily in Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for Fortune 500 companies, as well as now I'm spearheading more of the small business local component of it. So we'll take a company like eBay, and they give us categories of stuff that they want to drive users in to sell. We create profiles based upon the different demographic, interests, financial, different targeting, and then we show ads to them through Facebook. These ads will then drive users to category pages, or if it's somebody like Adele, it drives them to a product page where then they're able to make a purchase all through Facebook. And the great thing about it is we track it from beginning to end. So I know who clicked on it and then became a customer, which is nice when you're trying to consider, I want to know dollars in versus dollars back. And social gives us the ability to do all that. It's kind of the same thing that you would see when you're doing, and what we get into when we talk about Google AdWords or Google Search, where you're able to track it from beginning to end. The main difference between you're doing something like a Google AdWords is you're basing it upon keywords. So that's based upon what a customer is searching for the answer to their problem. With Facebook and other social channels, we're basing upon who they are, what they like, what they're interested in.
And then, so when you had mentioned that, so what happens when your customers clearing their cookies constantly? Are you going to have to constantly, every action that they take, go in and retarget them, or?
Yeah, if they're clearing the cookie, well, no, because they're already in the list.
Okay.
Within analytics, they're already in a list based upon who they are. If they're clearing cookies, yeah, in our experience, that doesn't happen a ton.
Okay.
I personally don't clear cookies because a lot of the times I want to see if they're coming back with another deal.
Right.
And when to me, especially in my industry, I don't clear them just because I want to see what other people are doing. And I want to see what they're doing that's annoying me, so I make sure that we don't do that. We talk about retargeting through display, and when I was bringing up in the, you go to look for a shirt. Like I was recently looking for a new golf club, and so I went to a site and looked for the golf club, and literally every website I went to for the next 2 days, I saw the same golf club. Yeah, you're retargeting, but are you really serving your customer? All that's doing to me is it's pissing me off, and I'm probably not going to buy your golf club. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we try to take a respectful approach to this. I want to know who you are. I want to know what's interesting to you, so I'm not showing you ads that don't make any sense to you. And then I'll be respectful and make sure I'm not showing you an ad every 5 seconds. Rule of thumb is we usually don't show an ad to somebody more than 3 times a day. And usually we try to keep it below that even. Unless it's like if there's a short turnaround. Like someone's looking for a new car or airline tickets, chances are they're probably going to buy quickly. That's why you see so many retargeting ads there. But if you're looking for a piece of software, I know that it's probably weeks to even months before you actually make your purchase, especially if it's on an enterprise level. So I'll show you an ad every once in a while just to keep you, make sure you still know I'm around, but I'm not trying to jump down your throat. So step one, when you want to be able to use social traffic in search, is you want to adopt a universal UTM tagging structure. This is really important because this is how you qualify which users go into the list. If you go to Facebook today or you go on Google and you click on an ad, chances are after the initial URL, you'll see a question mark and a bunch of what they say UTM equals. So UTM underscore campaign equals. Those are called UTM tags, and that's how you're able to put people in buckets. And I'll show you an example here. So UTM code is a simple code that's attached to the end of a URL in order to track information about the campaign in Google. So we use stuff like UTM source. That's the channel that it comes from. So if I say UTM underscore source equals Facebook, I know that any of that traffic that hit that web page came from Facebook. Or it might say UTM source equals email, if you're running an email campaign. That way you know that that traffic came from email. Medium, so that's the method that we use to gain the customer. We use CPC a lot, cost per click. You can use organic, you can UTM organic stuff that you're posting in Facebook. It's great if you want to use it to build a list, but in my case, I'm usually using either CPC or we'll say like P social for paid social. Whatever you choose to use, you just want to make sure you're using the same one across everything. Because that's the important thing when you get into creating the list. Content tag. So what ad is it? It's important when I'm going into analytics and I've run 50 ads the last month. Well, which ad actually brought me the people? If I'm just looking at source, oh man, Facebook brought me 20,000 people. But if 19,000 of that 20,000 all came from one ad, I want to know, because obviously there's something about that ad that was important and did something for me. Plus, let's say we have 20,000 users, there are 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, but 4,000 of my sales all came from one ad. It depends on what your goal is. Is your goal traffic to your website? Is your goal sales? So you want to be able to track it down to the ad level so you can see which piece of content actually resonated with your audience. Then UTM campaign is another one that we use because we'll do different campaigns for different reasons. What I was showing you earlier, if I had a campaign, UTM equals Foodie, I know that was all the people that I identified and used the targeting methods to know that they were into that food stuff. So now when I'm creating my retargeting campaigns, I know when I'm doing my content, I want it to match that campaign. Because an important thing we want to take into consideration is what we call message match. Nothing irritates an online user more than when they see an ad for red shoes and they click on it and the first thing they see is a blue dress. Because I feel like you just stole my money. You didn't answer my question, you didn't help my problem. You promised me one thing and you delivered me another. So that's why it's important to know this information so that you know that you're showing them the same thing that they already saw, so you're building trust. Building trust with online people is important. So here's an example of what a UTM might look like here on the bottom. So my URL is chrisawesomewinесhack.com. That's my URL for my business. Then you see how I have a little question mark. That tells Google when that question mark hits, okay, now is the start of my UTMs. So now in their analytics program, they know that they start looking at it. So I know my source, my ad came from Facebook. My medium was I did a CPC, so I paid for it. And the content was a picture of my smiling face. So somebody saw my smiling face and said, I want to click on it. And they probably were sorely disappointed when they got there. But that's how I know when I go in now further, when I want to build a retargeting list, I'm going to have all this information about that one piece of content. So the Google URL Builder is a really easy way to do this. When you have a bunch of ads and you want to go in and type in UTM underscore source equals, and you're doing that a bunch of times, it gets very hard and you can screw up a lot. I've done it before where I've had to do 50 ads and I did it by hand and I probably got 30 of them right. And I had to go back in and fix all of them. Because if one space is wrong, one if you use a colon instead of an equals, or you don't use the right even tags, it won't work. And your URL won't work and you're paying for nothing. So this tool, if you just search Google URL Builder, it gives you this nice form. You put in your website, your source, your medium, your term, content, campaign name. You push enter, it creates the whole URL for you. Then all you have to do is copy and paste it into your ad or whatever you're displaying. So it's really the easiest way to do it, and I would recommend to do it. I use it probably on a daily basis. We have some other tools that allow us to do URL builders, but this really probably still is the easiest way. So the next step, you want to utilize the UTM tagging in your analytics. So Google Analytics, which is a free analytics tool that Google offers. If you're not using it, I recommend using it because it's a great way to find out who's coming to your site, what they're doing once they're there, how long they spent on it, did they buy anything, where did they come from. It just gives you a ton of information, and it's really important. But you can create retargeting lists within analytics based on UTMs. So you log into your analytics, you'll see an admin at the top right hand corner. You click on it, you come down. Very important, you want to link your AdWords campaign with your analytics campaign. Not just for this, just in general, you want to have them linked, and it's very, very easy to do. So you click on it, link your two of them together. This also allows you to create the lists in analytics that then you can push into AdWords. So you go down to audience definitions, and you'll click on this, and it'll open up another place. Here's where you see, remember those UTM terms we just talked about? So now I can go into these same UTM terms. I can say my UTM equals Facebook, or my source equals Facebook. Now that's going to create a customer list of every piece of traffic, based on the cookies that have come into my website from Facebook. So if I just wanted to do the simplest form of retargeting, I can take my very same ad that I used in Facebook that someone clicked on it, I can adjust it to make it fit Google's parameters, and then I can run a retargeting campaign just to those users. They saw the same ad already once and clicked on it, maybe they want to see it again. Or I can take it one step further and say, visit us again. You don't want to be super creepy about it and say, we saw you 2 days ago, come back and visit us again. That kind of freaks people out. But you can still be creative with the messaging that you're using and continue a conversation. It's a relationship. It's one of those things, back in the day when we did marketing, we did what was called interruption marketing. You're watching TV and a commercial comes on that's interrupting what you're normally doing. You're reading a magazine and you flip the page and you see an article that's interrupting what you're doing. What we're doing now is conversational marketing. So within your Facebook feed, as you're scrolling through, hopefully I'm showing you an ad that makes sense to you and showing you an ad that brings value to you, so that you're clicking on it and then I'm starting that relationship and I'm building it over time. We're not necessarily just interrupting you, buy now, buy now, buy now. When people do that, I'm not. That is what it is. So I can use this tool to create my lists based upon the different UTM parameters that I used originally. Next, we're going to apply that same retargeting list to my search and display campaigns. So you go into your Google AdWords account. If you go down on the left-hand side, you'll see Shared Library. You click on your Shared Library. You come to the next screen, will look like this. You click on your Audience tab, and then your Audiences. From there, Display Network, and you can go into Interest and Retargeting. And then right there, it will bring up another screen, and you just follow the instructions from there to add that list. Because you've already made the list, the retargeting list and analytics, and your two accounts are linked. So when you click on it, it'll show it to you. And you just click on it and you bring it in. And then you're able to use that same list of people. So a lot of times what we'll do is if a company wants to drive awareness about a new product, or they're having a hard time getting people to come to their site, I'll go through social where I can get maybe CPCs on Google AdWords $2 to $5. CPCs in Facebook, 50 cents to $1. Get in front of a ton more people that way, right? I've seen in eBay campaign that we're running right now, we're getting traffic at 8 cents a click. It's qualified traffic. I know who they are. I know what they want. But now I'm able to take all those users, 100,000, 200,000 people, I put them into a separate list. I bring them in here, and I'm fine with paying $3 for that person now, if they go in and search for something the same thing. I already know who they are, I know that they're qualified. It's hard when you're selling a service, because you don't want to have people, internet services. You don't necessarily want a bunch of people clicking on your ad that can't afford your service. Because you're still paying $4 every time they click on that ad, right? Well, in this, I'm already pre-qualifying them. I know they can already afford it based on the targeting methods within Facebook. They've already clicked on it. It cost me 50 cents, $1, whatever that is on Facebook. And now if they charge me another $5 to click here, That's fine. I know who they are. I pre-qualified them before they ever got into that. And chances are, once they've already interacted with you once, they're more likely to do it again. You've already built some of that trust because you answered a question or showed them something that was important to them, and then they will probably purchase something. So that covers that. I know some people missed the initial part about the different targeting methods. I'm happy to jump back to that real quick and to show you real quick those different targeting methods, just so that it makes sense with what we're talking about.
And kind of the way we wanted to go about this was like, whatever's applicable to our lives and whatever projects we're working on, just pick his brain and whatnot. And
Thanks for starting over for us.
It's much easier to tell you about the different targeting when I have a topic in mind of what we're targeting. But basically different targeting options in Facebook. So life events, demographics are a huge targeting method. We can target people that just graduated, people that are going to graduate. We can target people that just got married, they just moved, they're recently going to move, or they just had a kid. We also target by the fact if their kid's little. So I have a reading service that we do targeting for, and we target two different types of mothers. We target mothers of parents of kids that are between 6 and 12, and then kids that are 12 and 18. We target them differently because of the fact that they usually need reading help for different reasons. You know, if a student's between 12 and 18, their struggles with reading are different than a kid who's 6 years old who's just kind of getting into it. So we target them differently, but we're able to do that through these targeting methods. So we can target them by education. Are you a grad student? Are you in college? Are you a high school student? Did you graduate high school? Do you have a doctorate? One cool thing about this I was mentioning downstairs, we do international targeting. I target people in Denmark for eBay. And in Denmark, you're not allowed to use financial targeting. So I can't target somebody by how much money they make, but I can target them by their level of education. So what we do is we target people that have a grad degree or higher, or a doctorate. Because I know, in theory, with those type of degrees, they should be making around the same kind of money that I need them to make for me to target them with the particular products. So it's like different combinations. We can target people by generations. Are they second or third generation? Are they a grandparent? Do they have a grandparent that lives in the home? All of those different things. We can also target by relationships. Yeah.
And this is all information that, like on my Facebook page, maybe I put where I went to college, or my LinkedIn.
Yep.
Or
not LinkedIn, but it will come from Facebook.
Facebook.
The other thing, 70% of data that we target demographics on comes from loyalty cards.
Okay.
That comes from the U.S. Census, or different other federal programs. So they supply that information. It's one thing is important to note. It's not personally identifiable. I don't know it's your name. I just know you fit a persona. I know you live in a certain area and these types of things. So there are things in privacy that keep me from knowing, it's you. Now, I will say, as a joke one time, we did get down and target only people that worked in our office and showed them an ad. But that was based upon that we knew their street address, we knew what company they worked for, and we knew what's, different stuff about them. So of course we were able to target them. But there's different things. Work is a big one. Political. Different things that people are doing.
How did you get the targeting down that low without it saying that it was too small of an audience?
We just put a bunch of money in it.
Okay.
I was like, it was.
Yeah.
Facebook will say that your audience is too small, but if you tell them that your budget is high enough, they'll find a way to make your
right. That's what I was curious about, because I know we were talking about that earlier, how you can obviously up your ad dollars or whatever. And okay, that makes more sense, because that's why they were saying it's more true targeting when you're paying a fair amount of money for the traffic you're getting, and you're not trying to get 8-cent clicks.
Right. So the rule of thumb is audience size matters. So your bigger your audience, your smaller your price. Smaller audience, bigger price. So what we do is we try to find the balance in between the two. Some people or some companies, they say, I don't want to pay more than 50 cents per click because that just doesn't, my lifetime value of my customer and what my conversion rates are and those types of things, it doesn't make any sense for me to pay more than that. Other people say, I'll pay $5 because I have I'm selling, we did an ad for a yacht. Somebody was selling a yacht. It's a $10 million yacht. They don't care if they're paying $100 for someone to click on the site and come and look at the boat, right? They have 10 people that come and look at the boat, they pay $1,000, but one of them buys it, they're still making a very nice chunk of change off of that. So it just depends on what the advertising goals are, but really, theoretically, larger audience, smaller cost, smaller audience, higher cost. Another way of targeting is Facebook behavioral targeting. So we can target by, again, financial. What's your net income? What is your house worth? What size is your house? We can target by job roles. Are you a senior level employee, mid-level employee, entry-level employee? As well as we can actually target by job titles. So anybody who goes in and says that they're a CEO, I can target you. Anybody who says, you know, in my field, social media, there's like social media managers, social media directors, social media marketing, all those different job titles, we put them all into a bucket and we're able to target them. We can target, as I showed earlier, by travel. People who travel for business, people who travel internationally, people who travel for fun, all of those. A big one that is important, especially if you have any kind of mobile app or you sell something that people will use their mobile phone for, is mobile device users. So you can exclude, like if you have an app that only works on Apple, exclude everyone else. If you only, like I was mentioning earlier, one of the programs that I use, or that I do advertising for, it only works on Windows computers. So we exclude everybody else because there's no reason for me to show them an ad if they can't use the product anyway. Oh, this actually purchase behavior is a really cool one too that I didn't talk about before. But you can target people that maybe have bought tickets in the last 6 months, or target people that spend money on beauty products. Target people that buy electronics, different types of things that we know that they're interested in because they've already spent money. Kind of the rule of thumb in social and in marketing in general, if somebody's willing to spend money about it, they usually care about it. So if they care about it, why not show them a piece of information that makes sense to them and get that journey started with the user. Interest targeting is really cool because we're able to take all these demographics and then we kind of put another layer of targeting on top that people have displayed that they're interested in. And this is where people's activity in Facebook does matter. You know, what you do like and what you comment on, this is where they gather this information. So this is all the information that you provide to Facebook on a silver platter. What language you speak, what your relationship status is, what your favorite sports teams, what shows you like, what books you read, what your political view is, what inspires you, what's your favorite movies. All of those things are great because then I can take that and layer it on top of what I already know about you. I already know where you live. I already know how much money you make. I already know, where you went to school. But what this helps me do is I know that if you like specific magazines, you're probably going to be interested in that. So what we'll do is we'll take parents. So for instance, the reading program is the easiest one I can give an example of. We take parents who have kids of certain ages, and then we layer on stuff like, I know they're interested in abcmouse.com. They're interested in scholastic reading programs. They're interested in different things to do with child's reading. I put those all into a bucket. Then I take it one step further and I know that they're interested in subscription services. So because this service that I'm particularly advertising for is a subscription service. So I want to make sure I'm in front of people that are familiar with subscription services and it doesn't bother them. So I know they're a parent, I know they're interested in reading, and I know they don't have a problem with subscription services. Show them an ad, and I make an ad with a child that's reading, and our creative team comes up with some content, and hopefully that's something that's A, interesting, and B, inspires some action. There's also third-party data, and this is what I was mentioning that comes from like the loyalty cards, the U.S. Census, and stuff like that. We have a blog series on our blog called Targeting High House, but this is kind of an extension from. But the ainclearblog.com, every week we show different targeting methods based upon what they learn there. So, with the political season coming along, we're showing people how to target people based on their political affiliations. How to target when the Super Bowl and when college football first started. We had blog posts that show people how to target football lovers based upon where they were going, where they're traveling. We were targeting people that were traveling into Arizona last year for the college football championship and liked ESPN, and we were targeting for a sports bar. We know they're traveling in, we know they love the teams, and chances are they're going to need a place to hang out when they're not watching the game. What better place than coming and hanging out at our particular restaurant? So, like I said, ainclearblog.com has tons of these different things that we put out every month, and we're constantly updating that. So, if you would like to learn more about different targeting methods, that's really a good resource. So that basically covers all of that. Is there any questions about different targeting combinations or specific scenarios? I'm happy to kind of put those together as well.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
As you're talking, you're giving some numbers like 8 cents and $5 and $1 and
Right.
And it strikes me that if the product that I create has fairly small profit margin, people are paying by click. So you're paying. Are there sort of classes of products or characteristics of products profit that would counterindicate social media marketing, where you say, well, that's an area where you really just can't make a buck?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you look at the different things that we look at when we're looking at a new campaign is closure rates, profit margin, and what the CPCs look like. So, and there have been different scenarios where we've come back to a client and just said, you're better off spending your money in another channel, at least until you have built up a bigger audience or you have a bigger budget or that kind of stuff. I mean, this strategy of pre-qualifying people through social and then using search to kind of sell them stuff is great, but it doesn't work in every scenario. What I would look at is your closure rate times your CPC. So basically, if I know I'm paying $1 for every user that goes to the site, and I know I'm only going to close 1% of those users, so I basically have a $100 CPA.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's another way that you can do targeting within Facebook when you're talking about bidding, and you can bid on a CPA, which is cost per acquisition. And Google and Facebook will only show your ads up to a certain point, and then they'll turn them off. But that's another thing that we look at. We don't necessarily always target by CPA, but that's our main driver when we're actually getting down to it with a customer is cost per acquisition, and does it make sense? And a lot of times you're not going to get there right away, especially in social, because the intent is different. But it's one of those things, as long as we're driving CPAs down to a reasonable CPA, then we feel good about it. Your CPA in search will always be lower than your CPA in social. Or I should say 9 times out of 10. You will get lucky sometimes. But when you look at intent, that's the biggest driver of CPAs. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
That's perfect. Thanks.
And then, or go for it.
Oh, well, I just, if there was silence, I'd ask you the question that only I'm interested in, of course, but actually I work I'm wondering about if you've ever done any work for nonprofit organizations, and the reason I ask is because I work for the local community foundation, Duluth Community Foundation, so I'm, which is so much a relationship, personal, sit in a closed room type of, organization, the way we get donations for the most part, but, we're thinking, of course, about ways to do it in other methods.
I did write a blog post about that actually, and it's on the blog, but I'll give you the essence of it. So what we would use social for, especially when donations, and I have some background in that. When I was in college, I worked for a boarding school for at-risk kids in Washington State. I'm actually an alumni from the school, and I worked there, and part of what I did too was use marketing to gather new donations. And then when we came here, we do some work with nonprofits. So we would use Facebook to start the conversation. Let's say you're having an event, a gala or a dinner or a fundraising type of event. We would use Facebook to get people interested. I don't see a ton of action of getting direct donations from Facebook, but I would say your advertising dollars for events are better spent in Facebook than they are taking out an ad somewhere. That being because you can target people by income levels. So you can make sure you target people that have the disposable income to donate. You can also target by behaviorals in the fact that they have already donated to charities in the past. So you know that they're into charitable activities. And you can do the locational targeting and target people that are going to be close enough to come to the event. Facebook also offers you the opportunity within its ad types to do event promotions. So you can create a Facebook event and then target it or then promote it only to that targeted audience. So there's different types. Another thing that we saw a lot of great success with is doing video ads in Facebook, because video ads are usually very, very inexpensive, and they drive a ton of engagement and awareness of getting people interested in what's going on. So you shoot a minute-long video about what your organization is doing, and you know why it's important per se. You take it and you promote it out to all these people, and a rule of thumb within Facebook for a video view, it's going to cost anywhere from 1 to 7 cents, depending on the audience size. So it costs 1 cent for somebody to watch the video. What we see then is a lot of people will start engaging with the video. So they're going to comment on it, they're going to share it to their friends, they're going to like it, or go back to your page and look at more information about it. What's great about that is people liking, commenting, and sharing your ads give you free exposure, because you don't have to pay for the other people that see it. So if I'm running an ad to a certain group of people and they share it, so that means it shares it to all of their friends on Facebook, I don't have to pay for them to see it. I only have to pay for them to see it.
Right.
What's important to consider with that is brands, organizations, and companies in Facebook only have a 1 to 2% organic reach rate. So that means if I have 100 people that like my page on Facebook and I make a post on Facebook, one person might see it. In Facebook's algorithm, with how they decide what shows up in your newsfeed when you're scrolling through, the weight that they give to organizations is very, very low, because all of the weight that they're giving is to friends and family. So if we're friends on Facebook and I post something, chances are you're going to see it. If you like AimClear as a brand and I post something, chances are you probably won't see it. So what happens is you have companies that have thousands and thousands of people that like their page, and then they're posting up information, and then they're wondering why nobody's responding to it or nobody's completing an action. It's because they're not seeing it. So that's why stuff like this with Facebook ads becomes important, because now I can guarantee that the right people will see it. Not just the people that like my Facebook page, but those people plus everyone else who fits the profile of those people down the line as well. So really what Facebook has done with brands is that they kind of made this pay-to-play thing a necessity. If you want to get people to see your information and you want them to interact with it, chances are you're going to have to put some kind of money behind it, either through a promoted post, where when you post something on your Facebook wall and then you can post it out to the people that are already your friends, or like what we do with dark posts, which is something that doesn't show up organically in your feed, but we promote it out to the right people.